It's time now for the Tool Shed, where we talk about home improvement, ownership, and DIY projects. The Tool Shed is brought to you in part by the Glass Doctor of Michiana with 3 locations in South Bend, Goshen, and Elkhart. And by Penny Seeger's Remax Results. Real estate that makes sense. Now here is your host, the king of tools, Warren Seegers. Along with Penny Seegers for that extra curbside appeal. Now sit back and enjoy this week's show.
And welcome into the Tool Shed. I am Warren Seegers, and not with me tonight is Penny Seegers. She had a last-minute call. She has to go out and do a house showing. That would be the life of a real estate agent, always on call, ready to go out and show someone a house. But tonight we have a really great show. With me tonight I have Kate Irelan, and she is the volunteer coordinator for Lacasa. And I think this is going to be a great show because Lacasa has been around for a while, but a lot of people still, I believe, don't understand what Lacasa is. And I think, like at the Career Center, we've always had a saying that the Elkhart Area Career Center is the best kept secret in Elkhart because people just really don't know what we do. And I kind of feel that way with Lacasa, so we have you here tonight. We want to talk about everything you guys do and get the word out about Lacasa. So for people that don't know what Lacasa is, tell me what Lacasa is. What is your elevator pitch for that?
Oh boy. Well, Lacasa is a lot of things. Let me start this way. Sometimes when I talk to a group, back when we used to talk to a group, I would say, what do you already know about Lacasa? And sometimes people would say, Help a House. And that is a program that we do, so I was always glad for that. And then sometimes somebody would say, I know that you only help people who speak Spanish. And that is not correct. And I always love the opportunity to help people understand that we reach all populations, we work with all populations. In fact, way back 50 years ago, when Lacasa was first formed, and it was first formed by two nonprofits that were both doing a very similar thing. One of the nonprofits was helping people who were struggling to find housing, and the other was helping people who were struggling to find housing and spoke Spanish. So those two, very small, realized that they could do a lot more if they would combine forces. So that's what they did, and they chose this name.
Lacasa has been around for 50 years.
Yes, this is our 50th year. Can you imagine having your 50th celebration year in 2020? No parties,
have a big
no
event.
nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting stuff because I thought Lacasa has only been around for maybe 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Yes, we have been around for a long time, and we have been serving all populations for all of that time. So this is a great opportunity for me to get to say that.
So what do most people know about Lacasa?
Most people know the home repair side.
Okay.
Help a House, that program that I mentioned, that is a program where people who need home repairs but can't afford them can apply to us for help, but the funding for that program is limits it in quite a few ways, geographically and income, assets. All those things have to be checked to make sure that you fit the parameters of this particular program.
Okay.
So, but that is one thing that we're pretty well known for, probably because we bring out a large number of volunteers on one day for our community work day.
Right.
That is the best known part of Help a House. And so, of course, we were not able to do that this year, but normally we would have maybe 200, 250 people spread out all over Goshen and working on various projects. However, there is more to Help a House than that. Help a House actually goes on all year round as a home repair service, but people only think of the one day when all the volunteers come.
Right.
There's a lot more to it, and it extends beyond that day.
Who do you help with Help a House?
Well, it could be, a lot of times we'll see people on a fixed income, probably elderly. Maybe they're going along just fine, everything's going great. A tree branch falls and punches a hole in the roof, and then they're in trouble because, you know, they were okay, but now they've got a big expense that they may not be able to handle.
Right. And they're not as young as they used to be either. So
and they can't go and fix it themselves.
They just can't go out and do it themselves.
Or once in a while, we'll see a very young couple. They have been making it, but they've never had a chance to build up any reserves. Something goes wrong. The furnace goes bad. Who knows? Anybody who's a homeowner knows how many things can go wrong with your house.
Exactly.
And, you know, so sometimes people are stuck, and if they're able to fit into the requirements of the program, we're able to help them.
I remember when we were young, I mean, money was very, very tight.
Sure.
So we didn't have money to hire people to help us to fix things. And the other side was I didn't have the knowledge at that time to fix a lot of things. So it's kind of double-edged sword there. You got young people without knowledge. You got older people that probably know how to fix it but just can't because they're not young anymore.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Let's talk about so you help people with their homes. What type of assistance do you offer besides the help a home? I mean, that's repair, maintenance.
Oh,
what other
sure.
programs do you have?
Well, we have quite a few. And one that I'm going to jump in here and make sure that we hit on is our Financial Empowerment Center. I don't know if that means anything when you hear those words, but we offer classes in personal finance. It can be credit card debt, student loan debt, preparing to buy a house. I think I'm leaving out some things, but we have programs like that that can, you can join the class. Currently, I want to make sure and mention we are doing them on Zoom. We had just revamped our entire curriculum, and we're about to open it up, and the quarantine happened.
Oh.
So our staff, like teachers, quickly pivoted to Zoom. Never used it before,
Right.
but they have been offering the classes on Zoom. So it's not like a pre-recorded class that you can just watch anytime. You do have to be present
Right.
at the time the Zoom class is going on, because it's
with-
interactive.
Right. I was going to say, with the Zoom class, everybody's got their mic muted, hopefully, so
Well.
you don't hear the dog barking in the background.
Right.
But they could ask questions just as easy.
Right.
So with that class, because the other thing that I think people don't understand, like with that class, and specifically, if I understand correctly, anybody can take that class.
Absolutely.
It does not matter.
No requirements.
No requirements, income levels, or anything like that. And who doesn't want to get out of debt, folks? Come on. That's just education. That's everybody should know. But, that's not so common sense anymore in our day of saving money and how to
Well,
manage money.
That's true. And a lot of people, a lot of times, people will get in over their head before they realize what's going on. And then when you do realize it, you're not sure where to go with it. So we do have some things we can offer to help you. Maybe you think you can't save. And so we will offer some suggestions on, well, here are some places maybe you could cut back. So
Right.
it's a very personal thing, too.
Right.
So it's not just a cookie cutter kind of program.
And with my wife being a real estate agent, I can't tell you how many times she gets a client that wants to buy a home, but they're just not in a financial position to buy a home. So this would be an awesome opportunity for someone to take a class, figure out their finances, and I'm sure that you have a segment in it that gets them to home ownership.
Yes, we absolutely do have. There's a home buyer class that they can take.
Oh,
and
specifically for that then,
for
too.
people who are pretty close to being ready to buy. And I have to say, banks in the area have said they're happy to see the Lacasa graduates come in, because, a lot of people walk in to get a mortgage and they don't really know what they're doing. I have to say, I was probably one of them
Yep.
once. And sign your name on the bottom line and hope it all works out.
Right,
But,
yeah. We all bought our first house that way.
Right. But the lenders tell us that when the Lacasa grads come in, they know what they're looking for. They have some ideas about what kind of mortgage product they want, which they don't see that often, and so they're happy to see that. And they know that they won't have to spend as much time explaining things.
Right. Well, we got to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about your construction projects that you do, because you don't just build houses. Some of these projects are ginormous, like the Roosevelt project.
Yes.
And that was been done for years now. Roosevelt Elementary School, I do believe it was, turned that into an awesome apartment complex.
I think so.
And back when you were putting that together, Penny actually we did a video with Penny talking to Brad on how that was all coming along over the plans of it. So when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about those types of projects, and we'll take a look at that video.
Great.
Don't go anywhere, folks. Stay with us. We'll be right back on the Tool Shed.
Call the glass doctor. Call the glass doctor. We'll fix your paint. Oh yeah.
Ethan and Gizmo, best friends since July 7, 2011. Chris and Luna have been best friends for 2 years. Riley and Frankie have been best friends since 2017. Beth and Thurza, best friends since 2017. Your next best friend is waiting for you at the Elkhart County Humane Society. For more information on adoption, visit elkharthumanesociety.org.
Welcome back into the Tool Shed. I am Warren Seegers, and with me, my guest tonight is Kate Irelan. She is with Lacasa. One question I want to ask you, I got to ask in the first segment, but who do you serve? What do you have a footprint? I mean, obviously you're not serving everybody. Who do you serve in our area?
Well, we started in Goshen. We're pretty well known there and have done a lot of projects there, but we are aiming to expand into Elkhart. In fact, all of Elkhart County is our goal. We feel like we have a good product to give, our financial empowerment, our home repair, all the things that we do, we want to offer to the entire county.
My wife texted me. Maybe I should put my phone on mute. Better be important. Maybe I should read it too.
Yeah.
It might be important. No, just my daughter texting both of us. So
I see.
Live TV, gotta love it. So anyway,
Well,
you were saying.
all of Elkhart County is our goal. And in fact, you don't have to be from Elkhart County to take one of our classes.
Right.
You know,
Especially now with the Zoom.
Yes, with
could be
Zoom.
anywhere.
Well, in fact, as I heard, we had somebody from South Korea take our class.
Really?
Just not out of the blue. She was planning to come to Goshen College.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, it could happen.
Wow. I mean, there you go. Now you're reaching out and you're actually helping foreign exchange students or foreign students come into the country, and that would be a great class for someone that's coming that's another country, because our economy runs differently than their economy.
Yeah.
So that's awesome that she took advantage of that too. So let's talk about your large projects. You take different types of buildings, abandoned buildings, I think sometimes even not condemned, but buildings that nobody wants to buy, and people are like, well, nobody wants to buy it, let's just flatten it and get rid of it. Right. Tell me about those projects you're doing.
That is exactly what has happened. And the way we started was in Goshen. There were two buildings, the Hattel Hotel and the Schutz Commercial Building. They had been long since left their original purpose, and people had bought them and were letting tenants live there in not good living spaces. Yeah, you can kind of imagine what happens.
Slumlords?
Well, yeah, I hate to use that term, but yeah. The city of Goshen at one point asked a consultant, what can we do to make our city more attractive, to really help things happen? And the consultant said, well, you've got to demolish the Hattel and the Schutz. You've got to get rid of them. They're eyesores. People are afraid to walk past them. They don't know what's going on in there, and they're dangerous. Well, instead of that, the city of Goshen decided to let Lacasa take a chance. So those were our first two projects of repurposing a building.
Were those two properties?
Yeah, those were, yeah. And so that's how we got started. And then you've mentioned the Roosevelt Center.
So those two properties, what were they repurposed for?
They are apartments.
Are
they
apartments,
are all,
okay.
Yes. Yeah, I guess I assumed that. But yeah, they're affordable. And of course, they were completely not up to code, not up to date in any way. And I have to say, when you repurpose a building like that, you get some pretty interesting looking apartments. They are no two the same, you know.
Roosevelt, the Roosevelt project, I was amazed that they were able to save some of the terrazzo floors in there.
Oh yeah, we saved the terrazzo floors, and one of the things I love to say is, so many of the apartments have these huge windows like you would have in a school, right?
Yeah.
With the marble window sills, because this building was built in 1921.
Right.
Yeah, so it was...
it's amazing. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a look at that video and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Right.
So this is a project that Lacasa did. How many years ago was that?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's
Well,
been
it's been
at
a
least
while, maybe 10?
10 years?
Maybe
I'm
10?
thinking 10 years. And it was Roosevelt Middle School in Elkhart, and I think that was slated. They were just going to tear it down because nobody wanted to use it or buy it, and then you guys took over the project. So let's take a look at that video.
Ever since we started working on the building, people have told us how unique our project is. Until recently, I thought our project was one of a kind to Elkhart. However, through my involvement with the Sustainable Business Roundtable, I met Brad Hunsberger, who is the Director of Housing Development for Lacasa Incorporated. Lacasa has recently renovated Roosevelt Elementary School into apartments. Even though Lacasa was established in Goshen, Indiana in 1970, not many people, including myself, really understand what they do.
Lacasa is a community development corporation. We help folks find their first home, restore their existing home if it's owner-occupied, and also provide, like this building, affordable, attractive, safe rental housing.
Could you tell us a little bit about how Lacasa acquired it and what you're doing with it?
Roosevelt Center is an elementary school that was built in 1923. It functioned as an elementary school till 2006, at which point the school system decided to close it and build a new K-2 elementary school a couple blocks away. From 2006 to about early 2007, the plan was to tear down the building. The neighborhood leaders, Elkhart Housing Partnership really worked hard to save the building. They wanted to do apartments in it like we're doing, and actually only a couple of days before it was slated to be demolished, it got a historical landmark status and therefore saved.
So how about you give us a tour of the school and what you're doing with it?
Okay. This is a 2-bedroom apartment unit, kitchen, living room, 2 bedrooms and a bath down that way.
So I'm looking around the room here and I'm noticing some very obvious school-like construction. So I was wondering, how much of the building were you able to reincorporate into the remodel?
We weren't able to incorporate nearly as much as we would have liked. Being a school, this place was remodeled every decade since it was built in 1923. So the majority of the historical fabric that we'd have loved to have saved has been either taken out, destroyed, covered up by multiple layers, etc. This is one of the unique units in the building. This was the girls and boys bathrooms as a school, so you can see the exposed brickwork. In the kitchen you can see the exposed terrazzo floor. We would have liked to have done a lot more historical restoration of the building. The historical designation that saved the building from being destroyed actually is only for the exterior of the building.
The windows, are those the same size? Did you just, replace them with energy efficient, but leave the window size about the same as they were?
That follows along with the historical restoration of the exterior facade. That the window openings are exactly as they were in 1923. The brickwork is the same, the lintels, the sills, etc.
In the utility room over there, I noticed that there was steel framing. Is there steel framing throughout?
Right.
And what's the reason for steel framing versus regular wood framing?
On a job this scale, steel is a lot cheaper, goes up a lot quicker, and it also is less prone to fire, obviously, and it allows us to have a little higher rating in terms of fire.
I see a security camera up there in the corner. Is that something that is incorporated throughout? Is it another measure of security?
Right, there are 35 security cameras throughout the building.
I'm guessing with the security cameras that, the skating and skateboarding through the hallways is probably not going to be allowed.
No, that'll certainly be an activity that we will not allow.
So if they're not going to be allowed to skateboard in the hallways, what are you guys doing with these extra large hallways?
This is designed as a community gathering space. We're going to have a few desk areas for kids to do their homework in. It's going to be a free Wi-Fi hotspot for the kids and the adults to get on the internet. And we're going to have some tables and chairs, some checkers, some cards, etc. It's just a place for the people to come and hang out and meet their neighbors and socialize and whatnot.
Just an amazing project, right?
Yeah.
Did that bring back memories watching that?
It sure did. I loved watching them. As the volunteer coordinator, one of the best things I get to do is watch the projects from the beginning all the way to the end.
Nice.
So,
Well, we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the projects. We'll ask how people can help out. We'll give all that information out. So don't go anywhere, folks. Stay with us. We'll be right back in the tool shed.
Call the glass doctor. Call the glass doctor, we'll fix your paint. Oh yeah!
Thank you. God bless you all, and God bless America.
And welcome back to the Tool Shed. I just want to say a quick hi to Dan Gann out there watching and Kevin Lampkin. Thanks for watching. Always appreciate it. So, Roosevelt, that was where was that in? So you had the two in Goshen. Was this like number 3?
I think Roosevelt was the
number
next
3?
one after that, at least as far as taking a building that was not originally designed to be apartments and repurposing it into apartments.
So how do you go about deciding buildings? I mean, if you drive around Elkhart, anywhere, you're always going to find these buildings that are just vacant and abandoned, especially here because like RV companies sometimes go away and there's huge places. How do you decide what buildings you're going to use?
Well, I think in the case of the Haddle and the Chutes, those buildings in Goshen, I think we were approached by the city. In the case of Roosevelt, there was an Elkhart Housing Partnership that Brad mentioned there, and that nonprofit actually went out of business, and that's about the time that Lacasa stepped in and finished up, and Roosevelt was one of their projects.
I see.
So we got in that way. The other most obvious repurposing of a building was the Hawks Furniture Factory in Goshen, which is now the Hawks Arts and Enterprise apartment building. That was, well, obviously a furniture factory, great 3-story thing with roof starting to fall in and great big holes in the floor and sitting on the beautiful mill race.
Yes.
And so...
and Goshen has done a lot to beautify that area on the
we
mill
have,
race.
yeah,
Yes, I love it over there.
Yeah, it's terrific. And so the Hawks was just waiting for... So, again... I'm not sure who approached who. I think maybe on that one we approached the city, but I don't know that for sure.
So these projects cannot be cheap.
No.
How do you fund these?
Oh, people ask me where does our funding come from, and I just say all over the place, and it literally does. There is federal funding that we use for our project, and this is a general remark. State money, local money. We have private donors. It just comes from all different sources. Sometimes there are government funds that we can access, particularly for renovating buildings. Or sometimes, there's just so many programs, and I don't think I could begin to name them all, and I don't know them all, but it comes from all over.
Wow. So the people that work for Lacasa, I mean, are they all volunteers, or do you actually have a paid staff to keep this going? Because I can't imagine volunteers could push this
No,
much.
no, we definitely have a paid staff. We have about 32 staff members right now. And we've hung around 30 people the entire time I've been there. So that's a pretty good
That's
core.
lean. That's still pretty lean for
Well,
everything
it's
you're doing.
lean. It's lean for what we're doing. We have the real estate development, or you would just call it construction, maintenance, obviously, for all these apartments. Somebody's got to maintain them, right?
Right.
The Financial Empowerment Center that I mentioned with the classes. We've got, well, of course, the finance, the administrative, and then my branch, development,
Right.
which is, marketing, fundraising.
Exactly. So if someone wants to help, they want to make a donation, volunteer when that opens up again, how do they get in touch with someone? Who do they call?
Well, if it's somebody who is computer literate, I'd say go to the website, see, we have a contact form on there that they could use, and then they could contact us about any of the programs they're interested in.
Right.
They could call. That's a little more difficult right now. We don't have a receptionist answering phone calls, but I would suggest going to the website right now.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the website is lacasainc.net.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
yes. So lacasainc.net, not .com.
Right.
So
Thank you.
Yes. Are there any projects currently that you're doing, big projects, repurposing of buildings?
Nothing like that. We have started looking into developing some, well, we call it workforce housing. I don't know if that means anything to people outside of the trade, but, affordable housing really is the word I should use.
Right.
In Elkhart, we have just developed a number of houses on Flake Street.
Okay.
Some are duplexes and some are single-family dwellings. And that was a kind of rundown area, some blighted properties. There had been some demolition there, and so we are trying to build that back up again with, this is actually new housing.
Right.
From the ground up. So we weren't repurposing, but we are doing some projects like that too.
Right. So, the people think of Lacasa, they also think of Habitat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it seems like there's a lot of similarities between you and Habitat. Do you ever work on projects together, or are you guys like enemies? Like, hey, you stay on that side of the street. We're working this side.
The best things happen when nonprofits work together.
Yes.
They really do, and that's one of the things I like best. We do work with Habitat in some ways, and the most obvious way is when somebody wants to get a Habitat house, they will often send them to us. We administer a program called Dream Savers or Individual Development Account. It's a government-matched savings program that helps people, if they save a little, the government matches it, and it helps them get to their down payment faster.
Right.
So instead of Habitat deciding they're going to administer it too, they just send them to us. We get them to the point where they've got their down payment, and we send them back to Habitat. And they buy their house.
So basically you're dividing and conquering
I like
all
to look
the
at that.
work that's out there that you could possibly do. So instead of doing a whole bunch of things, and not doing it well, and them doing the same thing, you're like, okay, hey, you take this, we'll take that, we'll work together, and we'll get people in houses quicker.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, anyway, that's our time.
Oh,
that went really
did
quick.
go fast.
And I didn't get to all my questions, but we'll have to have you back on the show again so we can get more in depth on this.
All right.
All right. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks so much.
And a lot of information. Probably a lot of people learned a lot about Lacasa tonight.
I hope so.
So, and once again, if you're someone that is looking into any of the services they provide, or you want to donate or help, go to lacasainc.net. They have a lot of information. I was perusing their site earlier tonight. Good. So that is our show. Thanks for everybody watching. Don't forget, tune in again next week. Thursday. Every Thursday, we're live here on Facebook. If you miss our show at this time on Thursday, we do repeat the show on YouTube. We're not sure. I think we usually do it at 10 o'clock on Thursdays. But the videos actually live there. So if you want to go back and watch a show you missed, you can still do that too. So be sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next Thursday, DIY until you die.